Hi, it's Jesse. I'm back again. And I was talking to you about Job the other day, right? And what I told you was that Job didn't suffer for his sins, rather, Job suffered for the sins of those around him. Um, and this is not a premise that's well taught in religion, in any religion whatsoever, right? Um, but it's something that is referred to in like Galatians 5, where Paul tells the people stop eating each other, don't eat your neighbor, right? Um, when we eat people for our benefit, we are turning against them, right? One of the things that Jesus taught was judge the Jews, okay? But then he also said, don't judge or you will be judged. So let me take it from here and go on, right? When you judge someone, you take power from them. When you draw power from someone, you make them sick. You bring them down from their position. You put them under your feet, you know? When you trample someone enough, it maybe puts all the bones out of your body out of joint, you know? Like David said, the plowman was on his back, right? So he was constantly being judged, right? So to give this some well, basically, what I'm trying to do here is establish a foundation for you so that I can come and teach you something else. You know, I'm trying to speak to you from a context that you will understand, right? That there is a way to cripple a person without ever touching them at all, you know? Um, Everyone knows the great Samson, right? Samson and Delilah, we've all heard the story. But a few of us outside of Judaism know that Samson was lame. He was lame from, you know, infancy. But one day, Samson decided to get up, right? Now, I want you to think of Samson being lame and what would have caused him to be lame, right? Um, Remember this point where Jesus was like, uh, the child who was afflicted, it wasn't their parents' sins, but it was rather so that the glory of God could be revealed, right? Um, so there's this other part in Scripture that says, no longer will it be said that the parents have eaten sour grapes and the child's teeth has been set on edge, right? So basically, from this point, we can see that children are afflicted for their parents, right? For the misdeeds of their parents, right? So here's the deal with Samson, right? Um, we have this order out in the world, this order where people eat people, um, where they justify eating people because because of someone else, right? We have the children taking on the punishment for their parents, right? Noah made this possible, by the way, when he cursed Canaan, you know, for what Ham had done to him, you know, exposing him as he was naked and drunk. Um, so this was established here. It was taken a step further with Moses, where Moses was like, children could be cursed down to the fourth generation for the sins of their parents, right? So we get that this is an order to the world, and why this order. I think on this a lot, you know. Um, Noah, he was afraid to confront his own son. He didn't want to damage the relationship with his own son, so he put it to his grandson, who was, you know, removed from his relation, you know, through a generation, though it was his grandson. He didn't consider him as, what's the word, valuable, worthy, you know. So it was nothing to Noah to put the judgment on the kid, right? It's nothing to Moses to put the judgment on a kid 4 generations down. But here's the problem with this kind of mentality where we judge children for their parents' sins, right? Um, it does nothing to correct the problem. and you allow for things to continue on, you allow for misdeeds to go unchecked, unpunished, the person who has wronged you, their character is not developed, they are not set on a straight path. And furthermore, when you afflict someone who is not guilty of something, the more you hit them, there's two ways they can go. They can become broken and lame, as Samson was, or they can turn evil, like Absalom. There's two ways to go. So really, passing this judgment to the child is something that should have never been done. And it's a major part of why I refuse conversion to Judaism. It's not just I have my own covenant. It is that I do not agree with this vicarious atonement. I understand God says he wants a pure and perfect sacrifice, right? So we put the judgment on the kid. But then we have more lives that are ruined and nothing is settled, right? So this is not something that I like to see happen, right? Yeah, I'm judging. I'm judging here. I'm establishing judgment, and I'm telling you where we went wrong in the past, and I'm telling you that there is a way to make it right, but you can't be a coward about it. You have to call out the people who have wronged you, who have done you wrong, right? You can't let it slide. And I understand why it's difficult to call out the people who have wronged you, because many times these people will say, oh no, that didn't happen. I wouldn't do anything like that. They start gaslighting you. But still, it's a matter of maintaining your own character and integrity. It's not that they will fix their behavior or that they will call themselves into account, or it's not about them, but it's more about you. And it's not about being righteous. Everybody wants to make someone else look wrong, but it's more about being upright. you know it's not bowing down to things and letting it defeat you and letting it break you. If you can call it out, you can release it. And if you can release it, God can take it. It's for God. That's my covenant, to suffer for God, right? So let's go back with Samson, right? And I know I'm kind of all over the place to some, but I truly hope that you're following me, right? So in this world, right, we have pillars of goodness, right? We have pillars that uphold the world. And in Judaism, there are three. It's called Torah, prayer, and good deeds, right? So, good deeds meaning charity, good deeds meaning building your community, teaching right, and holding to the law, and preserving the law, and treating your neighbor with fairness and kindness and justice. It's a matter of choice of who you are, right? So the world is built on these things for the Jews, right? Now, where the world is built on these things and we have broken people out there who cannot work, then your good deeds include caring for those who cannot care for themselves. And so there would be something like Social Security for them, mind you. Samson was lame, right? They had broken him in such a way that he could not get up any of his young life, right? And I know a little something about this, because I was broken. I was broken when I was young in a way that I couldn't get up, you know. But eventually, as your mind comes to you, as they leave you alone because you're fully broken, you start to dream of, what can I do with my life? And you're still broken, but you want more. And you know that you're not going to get more by sitting there and taking your medicine and going to the doctor and doing everything that they say to do, but rather you get better because you start feeding your mind. You start filling your mind with things like law, with like just basic education, math, science, cooking, hobbies, crafts, You start filling your mind with ideas of what you can do, and you start making things with your own hands. And one step at a time, you get up. And now that you're on your feet, right? Now these people who have had you down, who've paid you for being down, paid you because they broke you, they didn't give you permission to get up. So now they got a problem with you because you made yourself better. And now these people want to give chase to you. Samson, he killed a lot of people along the way, with the jawbone of an ass. He killed a whole lot of people, right? So we have to understand, like, he was undefeatable, you know? And this would make them even more angry because they had already tasted Samson's power. They had already drawn from it. They had already made him lame with all their judgments. And so the fact that he wasn't taking it now, this is a problem for them, right? So enter Delilah, because they couldn't beat him. So that now they got to find out something else, like Samson. What's the secret of your strength so that we can take it from you, right? They asked me the same question. I keep telling them the secret of my strength is God, my first love, my best friend, the one I run to, the one I turn to. So yeah, when they ask me, who am I going to turn to now? When I tell you I can't convert, I can't run with these people, I'm going to stay with who I've always stayed with. Whether I was standing with Jews or with Christians or with anybody else, they were not the source of my power. They were not the source of my strength. They're not the source of my salvation. Iron sharpens iron. But they also break your heart, So you can't rely on people. If you make people your pillars, you're bound to fall, But if you hold the pillars of like Judaism, they're familiar with this, Torah, law, avoida, prayer, and good deeds, right? When you cling to these kind of things, you have strength in and of yourself, no matter who you're connected to, no matter where you go, right? So Samson, he made himself strong. He made himself strong by becoming a defender of the people, and I'm going to get back to these pillars, but let's talk about Delilah for a moment, because Delilah kept on trying to tell him, baby, I love you. Why don't you tell me the truth, right? When the enemy comes in like this, using your own household against you, when they have divided your house, and I'm not saying Delilah was his wife, but I'm saying there was some feelings there, I'm saying Samson was tired of being alone. Samson had accepted Delilah for who she was. Maybe Samson had the arrogance of Israel, and I know I got this problem too, right? Where you think it doesn't matter, that they're not going to be able to overcome me, right? But he told her lies, and they would come and they would, try to do what he said, and it didn't work out. And then one day he told her the truth, and they came, and they arrested him. Delilah took her money and went off. Now, I beg you to examine, was Delilah really Samson's partner? Or was Delilah the partner of the authority out in the world? Was she someone who was just sent in to draw the power from Samson, to confuse his mind, to confuse the narrative that was out in the world, to make it look as though Samson was not as strong as he thought he was? Because, when you got someone so strong, they start giving people hope. So here we got Delilah undermining the narrative, sabotaging Samson, wrapping him up with her manipulation and love. When you're standing on these kind of pillars, oh man, you are doomed, right? And it wasn't Delilah who was doomed, because she took her money and ran free, right? But Samson, he was broken, and they thought, let's put him in jail. And let's have our wives have sex with him, because remember, this is how we draw the power of the strong. Sex makes you enter in a covenant, right? So a man cannot carry a covenant in and of himself. He needs a woman, right? So they got Samson forced to have sex with their wives. Yeah, and you don't know this if you're not a Jew also, right? So this was his punishment in prison. They're making a fool of him, you know. They made him a gigolo, you know. They're drawing his power from him, you know. And he's taking on their sins and his eyes are out. He's blind, you know. He's serving all their amusement. They're having a good time. Until one day he says to God, as he's leaning up on a pillar, give me the strength. Give me the strength. This is the prayer that God answers, you know. So Samson, he topples this pillar. He topples the pillar and the house comes down and he kills more that day than he did any other day. Now this is what I want you to see about this pillar that was standing. Because we have many pillars that were built on today, right? And some of them, it says that they're one thing, but they're really not. And all they are is exactly what Delilah did. Manipulation, undermining, sabotage, control, scheming, diabolical, murder. You know, they take the life from you. They defraud the life from you. So when we're talking about the world being built on pillars, Judaism, we have Torah, we have prayer, we have good deeds. Over here, out in the world, we have manipulation, we have control, we have lies, we have undermining, we have sabotage, you know. We have armies, we have everyone joining our team, unbeknownst to them, that we don't care for them either. We just use them so that we can gain more power over the people. And yeah, we throw them some biscuits and we give them power to have power over the people. But overall speaking, they're just gatekeepers. They're just the pillars holding up the roof, you know. They're nothing, you know. They're like a brick in the wall, you know. They're nothing. They think that they're so big, but they're nothing. They give themselves prestigious titles, expert, doctor, you know, teacher, you know, but they're nothing. They're nothing because they have the same motives. They operate with the same motives that Delilah operated with: manipulation, control, undermining, sabotage, creating a false narrative, drawing power from people, you know. This is the kind of world that is always going to fall, whether you know it or not. It's always meant for destruction because it destroys so many people in order to rise up as it does, you know. Samson took this down in his day, you know. He took it down. He took it down quite easy for a blind man, you know, who had been drained of everything. You just knock down one of these power pillars that are holding up their temple, their building, and then the whole thing goes away. And then after Samson was gone, the Jews had peace for a very long time afterward. The world was at peace. It started to bear fruit. Life was good, right? Now let me tell you about something. These people secure their power by going out in the world and inserting a false narrative to drive your fear to make you stay with them. They say there will be a one world religion. A one world religion? You mean like Judaism way back in the day? A one world religion where all the idols were broken and the people had peace and there weren't all these people having to join armies in order to feed their family. There wasn't starvation was not used as a war tactic, you know. there wasn't all this sabotage. They weren't burning fields in order to strip the people of, their livelihoods. They weren't, taking away all other opportunity except for service to them. They, they weren't doing these things when the Jews ran. No, they weren't doing these things when the Jews ran the world. What do you know? So this idea that we should be afraid of this one world order. What is it? How do you say it? I get confused with my words sometimes, but that doesn't make me an imbecile. Okay, I just have a hard time putting my words together because I'm on different levels and different dimensions, and I pull things from heaven and I pull things from earth, and I hear what people say and I get the meaning behind it, and it's all in one head, right? It's all in my head spinning around. Sometimes makes it hard for me to get everything out in a way that's coherent for other people, but that still doesn't make me an imbecile, okay? One religion, world order. That's what they call it. Yeah. So, I don't, I think that we're taught to fear things. We're told things that are dangerous for us, but they're actually good for us. Um, and I know, like with the Jews, they have a lot of two-state solutions for things. It wasn't just about Israel and Palestine or Israel and Gaza. They were messing up with two-state solutions long before then, right? From the dawn of time, where Moses was like, will be covered by Torah and everybody else will be subject to the power of agreement, but unbeknownst to him that this would set them at odds with the world in such a way that the world would continually overpower them, and they'd spend more time in exile than they would in redemption, unbeknownst to Moses. Two-state solutions don't work, and I don't know how this one religion world order would make out, because even the Jews, with their two-state solution kind of thinking, they say that the only other people who have their own spiritual power is in Islam, right? And so one thing that I wanted to do, one thing that I was curious about was, okay, so what's the pillars of Islam? What holds up Islam? And apparently there's 5 pillars. There's the declaration of faith, there's prayer, there's almsgiving, there's fasting, and there's pilgrimage. So these are the 5 pillars of Islam, right? So in here we see that it's not far off from what the Jews say with law, but they also have a declaration of faith, and they also have prayer and almsgiving. That's very much close to charity, right? Fasting and pilgrimage. I'll get that word right. See? So if these 5 pillars make them have spiritual power, you're right, where even the Jews give them authenticity, where even the Jews say that they have their own access point to God, their own power, their own covenant, as it would be. Then how do we get to this whole one religion world order? If we have this division over here, where we have this, where the Jews see a two-state solution going on, who would be supreme, who would be sovereign? And I think about this, but then I don't give it much thought, because I have my own covenant, and it's not in the covenant of Abraham. So where I think that people are expecting me to join here or join there, and adopt everything as 100%, take on everything they say, I have all these little conflicts of interest within me, right? I have all these little concerns about, okay, so Who's right? How would this come to be? You know? Am I the one who leads the new world order? That one religion world order? But I don't run with religion so much. I'm more with the Bible, where the Bible says that one day you won't need anybody to teach you about God, because you'll know him for yourself, you know? Because I've known him for myself, like, all my life, right? But I don't find error in what the Jews call their five pillars, or I mean 3 pillars, and what Islam calls is their 5 pillars. I find no error there. I find that's good. That's good. That should be universal laws out in the world, you know? Because when we stick with what is right for people to do, instead of doing this whole law where we say what not to do, you know, this is illegal, that's illegal, that's illegal. But when we stick with what's right, with what to do, and I'm not just saying, like in America, we have this constitution that guarantees us liberty, you know, that gives us the right, freedom of speech, you know, the right to bear arms, you know, where we have all these rights, we have permission, we have like license, right? Um, but then we don't know like how to interact with one another, you know, and we get this petty thing where we think that it's their responsibility. They should pull themselves up because I had to pull myself up. And there's no acknowledgement that nobody has gotten to where they are by themselves, right? That everybody has somebody to pull them up, you know, where we come to this understanding that we are better as we all rise. But you see, this idea is lost in a world like we have right now, where people eat each other, you know, where people rule through opinions, where people weaponize the Constitution, where they weaponize the lawmakers, where they weaponize those who should carry out justice. They weaponize teachers and doctors. They weaponize neighbors, you know, and everybody's eating somebody, and the only way to rise is through eating somebody. And I think that what we really need is to get back to these. What are the pillars of life? What are the things that we can do? Because I'm going to tell you right now, I can't knock down the pillars. I can't knock them down, but I can help you where you are. And if I can help you where you are, then you won't be able to be exploited. And if you're not able to be exploited, you're not going to eat your neighbor. And if I can get to your neighbor's not going to eat you. And if I can get to their neighbor won't be able to eat them. And then before you know it, we have a whole community where people are established with character, where they're leaning on these pillars of building themselves. Like, if I pray often, if I have this relationship with God, if I do good deeds, if I give charity, you know, if I make pilgrimages, you know, if I go see all the wonderful sacred places in the world, you know, if I give honor to those that are deserving of honor, you know, if if uh, if I lift up those and I correct those to help them get on a better path, I'm not just making myself a better person, I'm building a better world, you know. And way back when Samson was around, when he knocked out that pillar and gave the Jews peace for a while, the Jews had peace because they were able to live according to their laws, according to their pillars once again. They were once again able to develop their character, right? The Jews weren't so far off from the law, you know. The Jews were facing persecution, you know. They were they were persecuted by well, I'm not going to say that right now. Um, but the authority that was in power at the time was giving them persecution. And when Samson took down the pillars, you know, then they were able to return to their ways. Now, the exile has lasted for like 2,000 years, and the Jews still teach the same way they do, but they also teach other things, like if someone's come to kill you, got to kill them first, you know. They also teach other things, you know. Um, but if we can just start pushing forward and start, Christians, they like to evangelize. If we could just start evangelizing the world that this is the way you got to be, not because you're going to join this religion or that religion or that religion, but because you're going to make your life better for you and in your community, for your neighbor. Not because you can belong to this group or that group, because I'm not a Jew. I'm not Muslim. I'm not a Christian anymore either. Yeah, Biden, I know you said not Netanyahu needs a come to Jesus moment, but you got to pay attention to your own scripture, man. Because it's not someone who's going to save you. It's you who has to do the work. You who has to develop yourself, develop your character, develop the character of those around you. Call out injustice, stand up to it, make better laws, lead the people in character. Call out BS where it stands. I already said I don't like the lady who gave a rebuke to your speech, right? I don't like her at all because of the way that she did, and I don't even know her name. But I remember her speech, and I'm thinking, you don't rule that way. You don't govern that way. You don't lead a people that way. That's garbage. You're not building the country. You're taking out your political opponent. That's not right. When you lead the right way, you'll bring the people the right way. And my clock's about to time off on me, so I'm going to close out with that and say God bless. Have a good day.